All right, good morning, everybody. This is Sam Kwak, one of the Kwak Brothers. Welcome back to the Kwak Brothers Show, where we're going to talk about election result updates, housing market update, real estate investing, and of course, our favorite topic of lending and Heloc and how to pay off your mortgage. So welcome back, and thanks for joining us again. We appreciate you having us on your screens. Of course, we're going to have some updates for you guys as far as what's happening with the election, as well as the housing market. Daniel's got some updates for you guys. I got my update. You can kind of tell what's going on here, but what we're really doing is a gaming tournament. Daniel's got his laptop open. I got my laptop open. It's almost like a South Korean video game tournament, right? So that's what's really going on here. Anyways, I'm feeling a lot better, by the way, if you guys are asking. Daniel's feeling, how are you feeling? Feeling better?
Yeah, I'm feeling 100%. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't feeling 100%.
I'm feeling way better, significantly better. Thanks to coffee and kombucha. But before we continue and update you guys, we don't want to just lollygag here. So make sure you guys grab your free book, 0 to 75 units.com. I'm going to show you exactly how we went from 0 to 75 rental units, having 75 tenants paying us rent every single month. Of course, we were able to do more than that, but just sounds better if we say 0 to 75 units. So grab a free copy. That link is down below in the video description. We have a very interesting show for you guys today, so stick around to the very end. We'll have some Q&A and a conversation as well. So the latest update right now I got for you guys as far as election is that last night, the AG, Attorney General William Barr, authorized essentially an investigation on a potential election fraud or election irregularity is what the word is. So right now we have, so far the news that we have is I think the person that is in charge of the Justice Department quit after that announcement. So AG Barr, Attorney General William Barr, authorized the investigation of election irregularity. I have a hard time saying that word. And right now, the Justice Department, the person that's in charge of normally these types of investigation, quit yesterday, which it could mean many different things. But right now, that's where it's at. It seems like the election is far from over because there is still an impending investigation that needs to be done until things are all certified and marked to go. So that is where we're at right now. A lot of people are analyzing this by saying, well, it just seems like, it just seems like the Trump campaign knows that Biden actually won. And they're basically saying that the Trump campaign is employing a scorched earth tactic, which basically means that pretty much the remaining term of President Trump's presidency, he's going to work on discrediting the newly elected, Joe Biden. If there is an election irregularity, God, please help me with say that word, or election fraud, then obviously that would turn the table 180 degrees, right? Because that would just mean that, oh my gosh, there was something fishy with the election results and the election process. So again, I'm not calling for either side right now. I'm just analyzing from what could this mean from both perspectives, right? If there is election fraud, then clearly there's going to be some crazy civil unrest. We're going to see some crazy things happen. We're going to see a lot of people lose their seats in not only Senate, but also the House that wrongfully won the election, because not only did we elect the president, but we also elected several Congress and congressmen and congresswomen. So that could obviously throw everything off. Now, assuming that there is no election fraud, that there is no election irregularity, assuming that everything went just the way it was and people actually did elect Joe Biden, what I think is happening now is, again, back to what I was alluding to earlier, is President Trump and his team is trying to discredit Joe Biden, or at least trying to pull revenge, right, for the 4 years of Russiagate that we've seen. That's probably what's happening right now, if that perspective is true. Again, we don't know what the final result is going to be. We don't know for sure. But it seems like vast majority of people who support President Trump does believe that there is some kind of an election irregularity. So that being said, that is the latest election update we have for you guys. But of course, we have to talk about how does this election affect us moving forward? How does this affect real estate moving forward? So That being said, Daniel, do you have any updates for us as far as?
Yeah, I feel like we kind of talked about that yesterday. So let's go ahead and move on to newer topics. So I'm actually going to ask James Fisher. You asked a great question in the chat box, and I'm going to answer that for you. And by the way, guys, if you have more questions about real estate investing, Heloc strategy, whatever kind of the way you found our YouTube channel, whether it be real estate, Heloc strategy, paying off debt, leave the questions in the chat box, right? We really want to interact with you guys. Part of the reason why, myself, Sam, Nick, Katie here at the Kwak Brothers, the reason why we kind of thought of this idea for the show, the live show, is because we want to have some engagement and interaction with you guys as opposed to just recording a video and kind of just seeing how it does. So leave your real estate questions, all sorts of questions down in the chat box below. But before we go ahead and do that, as you guys type in your questions, let me answer James Fisher's question, and let me also answer Sam's question, kind of in the same answer, right? I mean, is it because you guys are kind of asking the same thing, right? James, you're asking, is it worth getting into real estate now, or is it better to wait? Right? Thank you for your time. Thank you for your question, James. And then Sam's question was, hey, what do we think about in light of this election? How is this going to affect real estate, right? How is it going to affect? So, like I mentioned yesterday, and I mentioned 1,000 times. Whoever the president of the United States is oftentimes gets credit for when the economy does really good, and it also takes a lot of crap when the economy does really bad. And truth of the fact of the matter is they really don't matter, and they really don't influence the markets as much as we think. I think we're all sophisticated investors. We're all sophisticated, economists. When I say that, typically the Federal Reserve, the central banking system, what happens with global trade, what happens with certain local ordinances, that affects the economy a lot, significantly more than whoever's in the Oval Office. And let me say this, real estate, one of the things I love about real estate is that it's local, right? Compared to the other things that you invest in. And, I take real estate over stocks, commodities, bonds, any day of the week. And one of the reasons is because, well, with real estate, you have much more of a leeway to be able to mitigate your risk. And I always say all the time, when you're an investor, and I don't care what you invest in, but as long as you are an investor, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's, whatever, always protect your downside risk, right? Always. So one of the things I love about real estate is you can choose the area that, you can invest in. You can't do that with equities. You can choose what company, right, you can invest with, but at the end of the day, you're not in that company's boardroom making decisions. However, you do have more of a leeway, right? You do have more of a skin in the game when it comes to real estate. Now, having said that, guys, to kind of answer your question, James, is it worth getting into real estate right now? Well, that completely depends, my friend. What are you looking to get out of real estate? Are you looking for cash flow? If you're looking for cash flow, I'd recommend now is not the time to get into real estate. I think you're going to have a lot more cash flow opportunities. If you're looking for equity, a deal in which you can get instant equity right out of the gate, one could argue that now is the time to get involved with real estate. Now that values are at significant highs. If you're looking for losses, if you're looking for depreciation, if you're looking for tax benefits, one could also make the argument that now is also the time to get into real estate because, well, if the building is going to get assessed a lot higher than it is going to be 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, well, now you're talking about a little bit more meat on that straight line depreciation. Right. And for those of you guys that don't know, straight line depreciation, it's a 27.5 years life cycle for residential. Yeah. Right. Well, residential and commercial partly. Right. You're talking about apartment complexes. They still kind of go off in that 27.5 depreciation cycle. So what the IRS allows you to take tax advantages every single year. So, you take a building, not the land. Right. You got to keep that in mind. The cost of the building divided by 27.5. And that's the amount of tax benefits you're inclined to every single year. So, James, I'd say to answer your question, it depends. It completely depends on what you're looking to get out of real estate and the reason for you getting into real estate. But based on how you can make money in real estate, which are multiple ways, those are what I would kind of recommend, right, in terms of doing that. And I know, guys, I did not forget. I know today I'm covering, what I would do if I were to start all over again, right? Based on today, depends on what I know now. What would I do exactly right now if I were in some of your guys' position of kind of not knowing as much in real estate or kind of not having no units under your belt? or maybe even no capital raised in that scenario, what I would do. But let's go ahead and kind of continue. Oh, God, by the way, before Sam kind of takes over and start talking about the things that he's got, don't forget to like this video, guys. It really helps us with the algorithm in terms of being able to get it out there. It really helps out our channel. Share too, right? We're very early, right? We're probably gonna be keep going until close to noon, right? Maybe like 11:45, 11:50. So it's still pretty young, right? This live sessions, this show is pretty young. So share it with your friends, share it with people that are at work right now that hate their jobs and want to do something to distract themselves. But yeah, absolutely. All right, Sam, what do you got for us?
All right, so I got Kevin Schmidt just dominating our chat box here with what obviously, and I'm guessing he's quoting what Fed Chairman Jerome Powell may have said. Quote, as many households continues to struggle, loan default may rise, leading to material losses. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And again, just like I've been iterating this over and over and over, the first group of people that I think are going to go, that are going to fall into the pitfall, are going to be the FHA borrowers. So I've been always concerned about the FHA borrowers for the last 2 years because of how close it is to what we have seen back in 2005 to 2008 as far as subprime borrowers. A lot of the characteristics we've seen back in 2005 through 2008, very similar to what we're seeing as far as FHO borrowers. Not quite the same because, we know that back in the 2005-ish era, if you had a heartbeat, you were qualified for a loan. I mean, it's just that crazy. So I'm seeing a little bit of reminiscence of that with FHA borrowers. But anyways, moving down the line, Kevin also says stimulus is dead. If Republicans take the Senate, we'll get a public works bill, but stimulus is dead. I don't necessarily say it's dead. I think it's sleeping. That's probably the right word I would put it. The reason why I say it's not dead is because the GOP does want a level of stimulus, but not at the level that the Democrats want. If we look at the HEROES Act, $1.3 trillion of that is funding for states and local government. The Republicans pretty much from the start said they don't want the $1.3 trillion for local and state government because obviously something that Trump said was, well, we don't want to bail out Democratic cities and Democratic governments, which obviously there's a partisan message there. But I don't think stimulus is necessarily dead, seeing that, okay, we got CARES Act. We had CARES Act passed. So that's possible. Could we see another version of CARES Act or a more targeted stimulus? Absolutely. I think that seems more likely than general omnibus bill, right? I think HEROES Act is a general omnibus bill. We're going to see more of a targeted bill that addresses specific needs. Can we see another round of $1,200 stimulus checks? Very possible, because at this point, GOP also supports it. Democrats support it. I think the part that we're going to have disagreements as far as what can get passed in stimulus and what doesn't get passed in stimulus, again, I think comes back to state and local funding. I think it comes back to how much money is directed towards things like childcare and other ancillary spendings that, of course, the GOP doesn't really like, but the Democrats are for. So I don't think stimulus is necessarily dead. I think stimulus is still in play. It just depends on what is on the bill and what is being discussed, apparently. So I wouldn't shoot it down. So the Big Show, WWE, is asking, is now a good time to refinance or wait just a little longer? So generally, if you guys have been following us for a while, I am not a big fan of refinancing in general. And I say that with the connotation and assumption that you're refinancing into another 30-year fixed. I am not a fan of that. I am, however, a fan of switching or changing the vehicle, the instrument that you're using to pay off your debt, to another instrument like a line of credit, such as a home equity line of credit, a personal line of credit. So we're a big fan of the concept of using a home equity line of credit the right way, because there's a bad way, the incorrect way of using a Heloc to paying off your mortgage. A lot of our clients can expect to save anywhere between 15 to 20 years off of their mortgage just by using a home equity line of credit. And I get a lot of people are trying to refinance to play the interest rate game, which is a really bad game to play, because at the end of the day, if you're chasing interest rates all the time, then what happens is you forget about the fact that every time you refinance, you're resetting the amortization schedule. which ultimately ends up having you pay more interest over time. If you guys don't really understand what's going on here, I'll put it in this way. If you go and buy, if you go to shop a car at your local dealership, doesn't matter where you go, they all do this. They'll try to negotiate with you on the basis of monthly payments. They never negotiate with you on the sales price. You know why? Because that's where they make the money. The dealerships make money on getting their sales price and selling you the terms. And what I mean by selling you the terms is they want you to dictate how much is the monthly payment, right? They'll say, well, Mr. or Mrs., customer, if we can get you out of the door at $350 a month payment on your brand new car, is this a good deal? And of course, you're like, man, I really want this to be down at $335 or $320, right? And the car salesmen want you to play that game because at the end of the day, sure, you'll get your $320 monthly payment, but they just jacked with the sales price. They could do that. There's a way of doing that through the means of financing. So it's the same thing when it comes to the mortgage. Mortgage brokers and bankers know that all you care about is the monthly payment. I'll put it this way. Most unsophisticated and uneducated borrowers only care about the monthly payment because that's all they see. They're like, oh, I'm saving a couple $100 here, so that means, oh, I'm saving money. Well, in all reality, banks and mortgage brokers, they make their money not on the monthly payments. They make their money on how much principal balance or how much interest they can collect on the back end. That's what they care about at the end of the day, and they care about what the future value of that note is going to be. So don't play the game that your mortgage brokers and your bankers want you to play by refinancing to a lower payment, because that's what the unsophisticated borrowers typically do, and they think they want. But reality is that you're at the end of that 30-year amortization, you would have paid a ton of money in terms of interest, and it's not a good financial move over a long period of time, over a long term. Daniel and I are investors. We are long-term investors, right? We don't try to get money or profit early on. We try to build something that's going to leave a long-term effect when it comes to our finance. So a refinance, playing the interest rate game, is a very short-term gain. It's only a very short-term type of a win. You don't want that, okay? You don't want to have a short-term win, sacrificing long-term wins. So I'm not a big fan of refinancing. I'm controversial. I'm very much of a controversial type of figure when it comes to the topic of refinancing. So I'm more of a fan of paying down your mortgage faster, cutting down principal, paying off the principal as much as possible, and using a HELOC and help you just do that in a very efficient, safe manner. So that, I know that was a very long answer to the question, but I wanted to set up the context as to why my answer is valid than just straight out saying, well, don't refinance. Okay. All right. San is saying, first time buyer here. My husband and I have been waiting to buy a house. Our goal was to buy the end of 2020. We are ready, but we live in Los Angeles. Oh man, you're gonna get killed with the price. And there's very little inventory and bidding. Wars everywhere. What do you think? We are afraid to invest at the wrong time. Daniel, what do you think?
Yeah, so I need some clarification here. So San, in your question, you said first time buyer here. My husband and I have been waiting to buy a house. And then your second part of the question says we are afraid to invest. So are you buying the house to live or for you to invest? Because those are two completely different answers. But in terms of the LA housing market, so I actually did a video not too long ago. I think it came out like mid-September, early September. I'm kind of going through my show notes, but I actually did a video where I cover 3 cities, right? And I do this almost every week now. And I don't know if I'll record the separate video for this week, but on a weekly basis, I've been kind of hitting 3 cities, and I've been kind of telling you from the investing and the non-investing side, what my thoughts are. I give you guys all the data that I pretty much pull research on, and it's pretty extensive. I look at different sites and municipalities to dig up a lot of the data, but I did one on LA. And so LA, surprisingly, I've been doing a lot of Southern California markets. I did San Diego, LA, I think we did San Francisco as well. And it just seems a lot of people are asking about the SoCal market. So the SoCal market, surprisingly, is not as competitive, in my opinion, compared to the other cities that I've seen. What do I mean by that? How do we gauge that competition? Well, there's this little thing called the list, the price to list ratio, the sale to list price ratio. And what that means is that, if you had a house on the market for $100,000, what's the likelihood? What's the percentage rate that you will get 100% of that $100,000? And other cities like Orlando or Arizona that are extremely hot right now, they're very close to that 100%. Some cities I've done, they're over 100%. I think a city in Texas, I forgot what city we were doing, but I think they were at like 102 point something. And so, it's crazy. It's very significant. But however, when I look at a lot of these SoCal markets, I'm seeing a lot of things that indicate the median housing price going down. And I think one of the reasons being is obviously California is just one of those states where a lot of people are leaving. And same thing with Illinois and New York, right? A lot of people seem to be leaving. I think the cost of a U-Haul truck going out of California is literally 4 times the cost of a U-Haul truck going into California for renting, right? I think the last time I checked, a regular sized U-Haul, which I don't know what a regular sized U-Haul means, but a U-Haul that's big enough to pretty much move your stuff, I think it costs like $2,200 for the trip. And for you all coming in, it was close to like $450, right? I saw it on the Valuetainment podcast, but I don't think it's as bad as it's going to be. I think if anything, it's going to get better. Okay, so San, you clarified it says to live, but I see it as an investment for my kids in the future. So SoCal is just one of those markets where if you're wanting to hold it for a very long time, you're gonna be okay, right? Because it's just one of those markets where the values are not going to drop that significantly. If you're talking about 20, 30 years from now, it's still a safe bet. It's a lot like investing in Ohio, right? Ohio has a +3- of 3% when it comes to property appreciation, and they don't really get hit during the recession. So what I would do if I were you, San, because I want to get through these questions before we kind of go through that training. What I would do if I were you is I would look at 2 things. I'd make sure that that building has the rental value to cash flow the first 30 days, and be extensive with your expense verification. So stuff like your taxes, stuff like your maintenance costs, any management fees that you're gonna have to incur. Or if I were you, I'd manage it yourself, right? Especially if you're gonna live in it first. And other aspects, right? Maintenance, insurance, that's another big one. Garbage, sewage, whatever, right? But make sure you really verify those expenses. Make sure you have secured long-term fixed rate financing for that property. So that way, when you rent it out, your cash flow is predictable because your debt service is predictable. And same thing with your expenses, right? So if it doesn't cash flow, in my opinion, if your debt service plus your expenses exceed 80% of your rent, I would not do it.
Debt service meaning your monthly payments,
your mortgage, right?
Your mortgage payment.
Yeah. So I wouldn't do it, right? I wouldn't do it unless you can get at least 20% cash flow out of your entire income. But it's great. You want to leave it to your kids. All right, let's go on to the next question.
Well, before we get to the next question, we want to make sure that you guys are understanding what we're up to as far as our live show. We don't necessarily want this live show just turning into a Q&A session. If that was the case, then we would invite you to join our coaching program. But eventually what we want this to be, we're going to have a schedule, and obviously we would love for you guys to go and give us some feedback and some thoughts, maybe validate some of our ideas. Maybe you can say, well, that's a good idea, Sam and Daniel, or maybe that's you can tell us, Sam and Daniel, that idea is terrible. I will never watch such a thing. So what we're planning on moving forward, when some of this election stuff kind of dies down, what we're going to do is Mondays we'll have kind of a state of the economy. We'll talk about the general housing market and things like that. And then on certain days, it's gonna be Daniel solo, where we're gonna open up our phone lines and we're gonna take calls. And what that's gonna be about is you're gonna go and bring your real estate deals. You're gonna go and bring your opportunities, and Daniel is gonna help you analyze them. So let's, for example, I call Daniel and I say, well, hey, Daniel, I got this amazing deal. I'm buying the purchase price is $100,000. Rent is X amount. I'm analyzing it. I think it's a good deal. Can you help me determine whether this is a good deal? Yes or no. So kind of like Dave Ramsey style, we're going to go and analyze your situation to see if it's a good deal or not a good deal. So if we did it that way, if we take a day out of the week to do that kind of analysis show, we'll make it fun, right? We'll make it so that it's entertaining. It's not just numbers. Would you guys tune into that? Yes or no? I just want to be able to see that. Yes or no? I want you guys to validate that idea by saying yes or no. Because at the end of the day, we make these videos, we do lives for you guys, right? We don't do lives for our own sake, right? We do lives and we do shows for you guys. So what do you guys think about the idea? Glenn says yes.
Is that Glenn Swarte?
Yeah, it's Glenn Swarte. I can smell Glenn just through the
Wait, what is that supposed to mean, dude?
I can sense what's happening. So let's say even if it's not for investing, you want to buy a home for your own residence. Bring that opportunity, right? Yes, no, yes. Okay, I got Jose says yes.
Hey, by the way, let's stop with the political talk in the comment section. Let's keep it about real estate and
Sam is now
how we can make money.
Nick says I'm a Wolverine now. So that's one of the ideas that we want to start. In fact, come December, we want it to launch a pilot episode. Basically, we're going to do a show, an entertainment show. It's going to be packed with value. And we're going to call it Shark Tank, but for real estate investors. So it's going to be myself, Daniel, and we'll have some other panel judges who are also other YouTubers, or maybe you guys may recognize them because they are a celebrity. And we'll have them judge your real estate deal. So you'll bring your real estate deals, you'll bring your opportunities, and we'll have panels and judges that would include us, the Kwak brothers, and we'll judge you. And we may just embarrass you if the deal isn't good. We may have a Simon Cowell figure that blasts you in front of the camera. That's what we're planning on doing as far as a show idea. And we want to launch that come December. So if you want to be part of that type of show, you want to be a contestant, we'll have a page set up for you to apply and you can come on board. So with that being said, that's one of the ideas we have. Of course, we have another a day. We could do another day where we're answering questions about HELOCs and how to pay off your mortgage, kind of like Dave Ramsey style.
Let's make that Thursday, because Thursday
because you have a meeting on Thursday.
Yeah, I have a weekly meeting with our fund on Thursday. So why don't we have Thursday be HELOC?
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Well, in fact, here's a better, I guess, angle or segue to that conversation. Well, Thursdays we do have Thursday every other Thursdays we have a live training at 2 p.m. Central Time about HELOC. So if you actually go into our community tab, I'm going to make that announcement pretty soon. But every other Thursday at 2 p.m. Central Time,
we're gonna change the time on that, by the way, because we have a coaching call, or unless we're using a separate.
No,
Zoom
we have
room.
A separate Zoom.
All
room.
right, good.
We have a separate Zoom room. We're going to set up a completely separate Zoom room for this. So if you are interested in learning how to pay off your mortgage using a HELOC, maybe you follow us for that reason, you want more information about it, we are going to have a live HELOC training. It's going to be me inside of a Zoom room, and that training is actually happening this Thursday at 2 p.m. Central. I'm actually going to leave that link down below. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the description here. And also going to throw it in the comment section as well. So that is about an hour-long live training with myself. It's going to be done through Zoom. We're going to do that every other week. So it's going to happen this Thursday. And then the following Thursday, we're going to do it again. And we'll probably do this till the end of the year. And we'll kind of gauge and see where it goes. So we're not really committing to it forever. We're going to see how it goes till the end of 2020. So I'm going to leave that link down below for you guys so that you have it. You may have to refresh, but let me go ahead and put this here, live HELOC training. There we go. So you guys have access to that, so that you guys can learn how to pay off your mortgage very quickly. And it is very important that you guys start learning how to pay off your mortgage very quickly, especially now to whenever buying season starts, because you don't want to be caught like the folks that were caught back in 2008 through 2012 that have massive amount of debt, and their value fell to the point where they were underwater, right? They owed more money than what their home was valued. So you don't want to be in that situation. So let me go ahead and throw that into the video description down below. And I'm also going to throw this in our chat box so that you guys can go and just click on it and sign up for it. There we go.
Hey,
so,
can we there's somebody in the comments.
I got it.
Yeah, let's block that. Hey, let's get back to the content, right? Because I like that we're doing announcements, right? We're keeping these guys up to date, but you know, these guys tune in for information. So let's continue on with the information. So let's answer one more question, one or two more questions, and then we'll kind of get into you know, what I would do, right? What I would do if I were to start all over again. I think that's something that you guys have been wanting for now, right? So I'm looking through questions. Wow, a lot of talk. Christian, you're paying $90,000 in W-2 taxes. You need to get into some real estate. You need to get into some multifamily. Email us at info@thekwakbrothers, and we'll talk about ways we can help you out. Let me see. Yeah, info@thekwakbrothers.com. INFOTHEKWAK brothers.com. All right, Kevin's got a question about, let's see. He's got a question about new construction. Let's see. I'm trying to look for it. Kevin, you comment a lot. I like it, man. You got some skin in the game.
Okay, so here's a legitimate question for Kevin. What's your opinion on new build custom house process? Is it a nightmare? Expect litigation? ?
Yeah. So I don't. You know, the new construction business. You know, truth be told, Sam and I don't have a lot of experience in new construction. However, there's a guy. I have a friend named Jerome Maldonado who's very good at that. That's what he specializes in. So, Kevin, if you actually want to go look up Jerome, right? He's really big on Instagram. And, you know, he's big on YouTube. I'm gonna defer to him because you know I like to be honest with you guys, right? About my strengths and weaknesses. You know, my speciality is in rental real estate, buy and hold, right? My mentor told me, Daniel, if you want to be rich, learn to flip houses. If you want to be wealthy, learn how to hold them. But having said that, you know, I'm sure there is opportunities in new development. New development has slowed down this year, right? To kind of give you guys an idea, if you look at the nationwide number for permits being pulled for rehab and construction on all units, right, in real estate, it went down. It went down pretty significantly. I think it went down like 30-something%. So that's going to shift supply, and considering that we already previously had an affordable housing crisis before COVID and all this stuff, I think that is going to be very interesting. Right, it's gonna be very interesting to see what's gonna happen. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Right, on today's kind of agenda. Right, I mentioned to you guys yesterday what I would do if I were to start all over again, knowing what I know now today. So here's what I would do starting day one. Right, let's say I still know what I know now, so I still have the knowledge. Right, so for those of you guys that are not at that level of knowledge, right. I would get on it, right? So get the book, right? 0to75units.com. It's literally free, guys, right? I make the decision to make it free because I want as much people reading that information as possible. And
the link's down below.
The link is down below. All you gotta do is just pay $9-something for shipping.
Yeah.
So you know what I always tell people is like, listen, if you're gonna struggle with a $9 decision on shipping, you're not gonna make a decision on $1 million. You're
gonna spend more on lunch today than in the book.
Yeah, if you can't pay $9 for shipping, you're not paying $1 million for real estate. You know what I mean? And I know some of you guys are like, oh, but Daniel, the $1 million thing, cash flow. Guess what? Cash flows. Your mind also cash flows, and depending on how large that cash flow is, it's going to dictate how far your business goes, right? All right, so let's go ahead and have a conversation on what I would do if I were to start all over again. So number one, I would immediately start finding ways to build relationships. I would take the shotgun approach, and I would go to every meetup. I'd attend every virtual event. I would literally just submerge myself in this real estate world. I would shake hands, right? I would get coffee with every single people that I possibly can. But considering where we are in the market now, because I want to make it relevant to you guys, you know, in terms of what you would do today, right? November 10th, 2020. What I would do is I would actually start targeting relationships when it comes to bankers. I would actually start building relationships with solid real estate attorneys. I would start building relationships with solid bankers. Now, when I say bankers, I'm not talking about, you know, your traditional commercial lender. I'm talking about building relationships with guys that are really going to help you out, right? So for thinking about downturns and economic downturns and recessions and depressions, historically speaking, we have spikes in foreclosures, short sales, and REOs. REOs are real estate owned properties that are owned by the bank. We see a spike in all three of these things every time we have an economic downturn. Well, why is that? It's because, well, typically unemployment tends to go up, typically income tends to drop, and people are not able to pay their mortgage payment. And the banks call, right? They call on the notes. So I would look to be very opportunistic with those aspects, and I would build relationships with asset managers, portfolio managers, and even presidents of small to mid-sized banks. And that's what you really want to build a relationship with, right? If you're Joe Schmo and you don't have $100 million portfolio, I'm sorry to say, but the bigger banks are not going to be interested in working with you. They're going to be interested in working with the guys who have $50 million in their liquidity account, and they're able to spend some money, and they have a track record, and they're able to get deals done. They're probably not looking to do deals with guys who are only looking to buy 2 or 3 houses. And I'm talking about guys like the Wintrust, right? The Bank of Americas, the JP Morgan and Chases, the Morgans, right? If I were you, I would look for these small community banks, right? These community banks that are in that town of 50 to 75,000 people or 100,000 people. And it's the kind of bank where the president of the bank or the asset manager is still willing to go out to lunch with you or willing to go out for coffee. So I would build a relationship around them. I would build a relationship with real estate attorneys, and I would look to build a relationship with capital right away. Now, I wouldn't pitch the deal right away, but I would look to just build the relationship. And what I would also start kind of secondly, so after focusing on building those relationships and taking that shotgun approach, of course, also while learning, reading books, listening to podcasts, buying programs. And by the way, we get that question a lot. Hey, should you buy a real estate program? Should you buy a real estate? Should you invest in a real estate coach? Guys, I am a real estate. I do real estate coaching and I do teaching. Let me be very honest with you guys and say, hey, look, it's a competition. Right? I mean, think about sports, right? Think about athletics, right? One day, right? If you're in the high school level, there's a lot of things that you can get away with. Once you get to the NBA level, guess what, guys? All those NBA players, right? Each one of them have their own individual coach, right? I mean, look at LeBron James, right? The guy's got 6, 7, 8 different types of trainers aside from his head coach, his assistant coach, his shooting coach, his strength and conditioning coach, right? That the LA Lakers all supply for him. But even outside the Lakers organization, right, the guy's got multiple trainers, multiple. And well, why is that? It's because he's performing at the top of his potential, right? He's playing at the top of his apex, right? And for real estate investors, that's the same thing, guys. Well, the thing with real estate is there is no college, high school, NBA. We're all competing together, right? We're all competing. And guess what, guys? One day you're gonna go after a deal, and the person that you're competing with for that piece of real estate is at the NBA level, whereas you're at the high school level. Well, guess what, guys? Guess what separates you from that individual? That individual invested money in a course. They invested money in a coach. They did all those things that the coach told them to do, and they're better prepared, better equipped because of it. And one day you're going to meet that person competing for a real estate property, and guess what? They're going to kick your butt, right? Because you're not as prepared, you're not as equipped. You don't have that coach in the corner to kind of give you that guidance and give you that structure in terms of how to negotiate, how to make the best offer. So in my opinion, I'm a big believer, guys. I'm a big believer in education. Sam says it all the time. I say it all the time. Listen, you either pay for education in here or you pay for education out there. The cost of education out there, it's a lot more expensive than the cost of education in here. All right. So I would do whatever I can. I would pay for as much education. And then I would set up what's known as a thought leadership platform. What do I mean by that? Well, it's a tool to gauge and continue the relationships that I have. So I would actually do 2 things. Number one, I would actually start a newsletter/podcast, which we do have as well. If you guys go to Spotify, look up the First Deal Experience. That's my podcast where I interview successful real estate investors and they share the story of their first deal. All right. So I would start a podcast or I would start a newsletter, and I would actually start releasing information on market news, right? And I would say, hey, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna write 2 pages of what's happening in the housing market, what's happening in the real estate market, because that's something that everybody can do. I can do it. You can do it. You guys can literally research. And you could Google what's happening with housing market trends, and you can configure that information to a newsletter and give it out. right? And by the way, guys, that's a lot of times how I raised a lot of my capital, right? I actually did this mastermind on a weekly basis. We go 3 to 4 hours. I had a newsletter. I had a podcast. I was still also doing YouTube at the time. And because of it, a lot of investors were reaching out to me saying, Daniel, you seem to know what you're talking about. You seem to have a solid blueprint. How can we work with you? How can we invest with you? How can we partner with you? And guess what, guys? I got those guys into pretty solid deals. It ended up working out really well. So that's the second thing I would do. I would set up some type of thought leadership platform, whether it be a newsletter, whether it be whichever, right? And then what I would do is I would set up and structure what's known as my pipelines. So pipelines mean two things. So number one, I would set up my deal flow, right? So what systems do I have in terms of deal flow? And what I like to do is I like to have active forms of getting deals, of deal flow, and I like to have passive forms of deal flow. And what do I mean by that? Well, I like to be organized in terms of my business, right? In real life, I'm really not that organized. My office is a mess. My room's a mess. But I would have two different forms. So what is passive? Well, imagine if you're fishing, right? If you're on the lake, you're fishing, or if you're in the river, passive is you setting up a trap, right? So you're going to put some things that the fish like. I don't know, worms. I haven't been fishing in 15 years, but I would set up some really cool bait, right? And I would set up this trap. And well, guess what, guys? You're not standing there kneeling, looking over the trap to see how many fish you catch, right? You're not going, oh, wow, we got one. All right, great. No, you set up the trap, you walk away, and you come back the next morning and you see how many fish you catch, right? That's the passive form of getting deals, right? So whether it's building relationships, whether it's putting an ad out, whether it's whatever, putting out a sign, find some way to receive deals passively, getting deals while you sleep. And that would also establish multiple ways of active ways of finding deals, right? Whether it's going out and actively searching, right? The wholesalers like to call this driving for dollars, right? I like to do the same thing, but I like to call for rent signs. I like to do all sorts of different things to have active. To start out, I recommend having 3 active forms of deal flow and 3 passive forms of deal flow. And then what I would also do is I would have another pipeline for building relationships. So I would have 2 different forms of relationships that I would count. Number one is going to be my operational team. So these guys are individuals who are going to help me with my business. So, my business team, I guess you could say. So guys like a real estate attorney, appraiser, inspector, broker / wholesaler, any maintenance guy, contractor, right? These are individuals that I'm going to be looking for to help run my real estate business, who are going to help contribute. And then I would also have another pipeline for individuals who want to invest with me. And many times they're one and the same. I always tell people, if you're out there looking to solve people's problems, if you're putting yourself out there, you're active in the networking game, you're going to find both synonymously, right? You're going to find both mutually. So I would have active and passive ways of finding investors, finding business team members, and I would keep at it, right? And I would keep at it for 3 months. And after 3 months, you should have a good, solid team. And then once you have those resources, right? And because when you're putting out the newsletter with the market updates, you're doing a lot of research on what's happening around you locally. And with you doing the research and with you conversating with bankers and contractors, et cetera, you're going to have a pretty good idea between your research, your team, the relationships that you have on what's the best strategy for you to make money the next 6 to 12 months. And so what I would actually start constructing is what's known as the 6 to 12 month blueprint. And this is the step-by-step process between your relationships, your research, the resources that you have available to you, and all the things that you compiled, right, in that first 3 to 6 months. That blueprint is a step-by-step process on how you're going to make money, how you're going to get the best deals the next 6 to 12 months. So that's kind of what I would do, guys, to kind of start out. And if you guys have any more questions, feel free to email us at info@thekwakbrothers.com. If I were you guys, I would get at it, right? And if you guys are obviously interested in taking things to the next level with courses, coaching, right, email us about that as well. All right. Also, don't forget to like this live stream, right? I gotta get in the habit of asking you guys to like this live stream continuously. But why don't we knock out a couple things? Sam, do you got anything for us?
No, that was a very long lecture. Thank you very much, Professor Daniel. But seriously, guys, what you guys probably missed was $1 million content right there. maybe you guys didn't take it seriously because this was all given for free. So if you guys missed that note, rewind and take the notes and come back. So that being said, let's go ahead and wrap up the show. We'll take one more question. I see a lot of you guys arguing back and forth.
Yeah, hey guys,
a lot of craziness.
I'm gonna give you guys a warning right now. If you guys don't cut the crap with all this political talk,
no,
no.
So
you guys can have a conversation, but don't spam the chat box, right? Because I mean, I want people answering good questions, right? I want to keep the show pure. If you guys want to have a conversation separately, give each other your guys' email addresses and have that conversation.
I mean, you guys are more than welcome to have a conversation. That's totally cool. But to Dano's point, we got to be able to see the questions. So we got to be able to see what. So this is why I think we got to have a phone line. Have you guys actually call into the studio, and we'll actually be able to have a conversation with you guys, and let the spammers keep spamming. So let's go into, man, I don't know if you have any more questions because all I see is Trump, CCP, a lot of arguments back and forth, which again, not saying it's a bad thing, but I'm just saying we got to be able to answer questions if possible. So
yeah.
All right, so I'm just gonna call it and say this is it. I can't see any more questions from here now. We're gonna work on the technology. We were able to get people to call in, but we want to perfect that technology. So we're probably gonna have that mastered where you guys will be able to call in live, and then we'll have a full-blown conversation about legitimate questions about your situation, questions that you have. Again, we'll have a pure dedicated day just for where you can go and come bring your deals and get them analyzed. So with that being said, we're going to wrap up the show. I'm sorry we couldn't get into all the question, but come back tomorrow, Wednesday. We're going to go ahead and continue our conversation as well as covering any updates for you guys as to what's happening with the election results and housing market updates. And I guess we'll go into more so, and I see a lot of common threads here in the question, and that is, should I buy or should I sell? I think that's a pretty common thread in terms of what a lot of you guys are saying. So, oh yeah, 11 a.m. Central. Is that did I say that right? Or
yeah, it's 11 a.m. Central tomorrow.
Tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central. Sorry, I may have said something weird. But yeah, 11 a.m. Central tomorrow. Central. Okay, just so you know. So I over the years of doing live events, I get small pocket of people that don't understand time zones. So 11 a.m. Central Time, we'll be back. Maybe that is something we go more into buy or to sell.
Yeah.
What is the timing right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, it depends on what area. So if you guys want to bring that questions to me tomorrow, right? If you guys want to bring me certain areas and you want to ask, hey, what should I buy there or should I not buy there? I do a lot of research on certain cities and certain areas, right? I think we, with our video series on the 3 cities and talking about the housing market, I think we already did 15 cities already. Ranging from all the way from Seattle, SoCal. We did 3-4 cities in SoCal. We did a 3 cities in Texas. We did a couple in Florida, a couple in the East Coast, Midwest. So we went all sorts of different places. So that answer is going to depend on what area you give me in terms of should I buy? Because some of those I'm like, nah, generally no. Most of them are no's, but there were some areas I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I actually would. If I find a good deal right now in that area, absolutely, I will pull the trigger. So bring those questions tomorrow, guys, right? And let's have a good conversation. Let's put a lot of good energy, a lot of comment section, and let's have here's what I mean, guys, right? Let's have productive talk, right? And if there's one thing that I dislike, and that's the reason why I deleted Facebook and off my phone and different social media avenues. If there's anything I despise, it's unproductive conversation, right? Like I do not want that, right? I don't know if Sam enjoys it or not, right? Because Sam and Joel, they like the political talk a little bit more than I do. But for me, it's just like, well, I'll only talk about politics if it pertains to our business. How does it help us, right? Because in all reality, right, has Trump or Biden ever called you the last 4 years and asked you how are you doing? Have they ever put money in you? No, they haven't done that, right? So in all reality, guys, we're in control. At the end of the day, we're in control of our own destiny, right? Whoever's president doesn't affect our business as much as we think we do sometimes. So let's keep the conversations productive. That's all I'm asking. But until then, guys, I'll see you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central Time. We'll be back We're going to have some good information on the election, housing market, stimulus, Heloc strategy. But until then, guys, I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah. So there's a question about where to get the Heloc seminar.
Where to get the
that
link
is down below. You may have to refresh because I just added it. But you know what? What I would do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and copy and paste the link to our seminar. And there you go. So you guys will be able to just click on it, register. It's a free event. There's no charge. All you have to do is just give us your email, and we'll give you the link for the Zoom so they can hop on it. And that's Thursday, 2 p.m. Central. See you guys there. Again, tomorrow, 11 a.m., we'll come back to do our live show. So with that being said, appreciate it. Love you guys, and take care.
Yeah. See ya.